Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Sports Bros podcast. I'm Matt alongside my brother Nick. Nick, how's it going?
Great, ready to talk Cleveland sports.
Yep, and sorry to all our listeners. We've been away for a while. Had a lot going on, but now just hoping to get back on track and provide the content that our supporters crave. So we're back today. Thank you again for all our listeners and subscribers. And we're looking for a good conversation today. So today we're mainly going to focus on the 2017 NFL draft, where now Brown's current quarterback was passed up by the Browns. And of course, we all know what happened and things maybe would have ended up differently, but here's, with him off the field, who knows if he'd still be here, but we're going to talk about him purely from a talent level on the field and kind of where the Browns went with their draft picks and kind of give our 2 cents on if it worked out or not. So Nick, you want to get started?
Yeah, so in the 2017 draft, when the Cleveland Browns went 1-15 the year prior, they had the first overall pick, and Cleveland passed up on any QBs on the board, such as Deshaun Watson or even Patrick Mahomes. And while they selected defensive end Myles Garrett, who no one can complain about his talent level, he's certainly not the elite. He doesn't play quarterback. He's not a quarterback that the Browns have been searching for. And it's interesting how Cleveland had the opportunity, and now they have the QB they passed up on and Myles Garrett, for the 2023 season.
Yeah. I agree with you. You can't complain with Myles, although, and I do think he is at worst a top 5 defensive player in the NFL. And every year, I think you can kind of argue if he's top 3 or even top 1. I know he gets compared, especially in Cleveland, to TJ Watt a lot. I just want to point out that while Watt is very, very good, and he is, and perhaps he is better than Myles, I think him being, mostly a different position player, even though they kind of line up in the same area, he's very often standing, an edge rusher, and has tackles at different parts of the field and can strip ball carriers at different parts of the field. Whereas Myles Garrett is almost 100% of the time, his job is to rush the quarterback and put pressure on the quarterback. And very often he's doubled and triple teamed. I think he was the most double teamed rusher last year, if my memory serves me correctly. But again, not to take anything away from TJ, but Myles plays a very different position and is not always in a position to kind of have these effects on games that fans don't always see with fumbles and tackling people downfield, maybe a game-saving tackle, that sort of thing. And it's very hard to sack the quarterback at all, let alone more than once a game. Which if he does once a game, he's doing his job, and perhaps even more so. So just want to point that out. This is not at all a criticism of Myles, but hey, where should front offices really be prioritizing their draft capital? So, Nick, what do you think of that?
Yeah, and I mean, every Browns fan can't complain about the performance Myles Garrett puts on every year. I believe last season he set the franchise record for most sacks with 16.
I want to say it was.
I think it was 18. 18, yeah. And the Browns front offense this offseason made some big changes, getting defense coordinator Jim Schwartz, who's been known to be very aggressive. They added more talent on the defensive line, Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, who were teammates in Minnesota, and so it makes them teammates again. Ogo Okoronkwo, Isaiah Thomas. They have great depth for defensive end and D line. So it's going to be very exciting, not just to see how Myles performs, but the entire defense up front. But drifting back to the 2017 draft, a very reliable source, Mary Kay Cabot, who has covered the Browns for 30 years, made a very strong segment a couple of days ago that she asked Deshaun's college coach, Dabo Sweeney, if the Browns pass on Deshaun at number 1, what would that be like, or how would it turn out for Cleveland? And Coach Dabo Sweeney replied, it would be like passing up on Michael Jordan. So that's a very impactful way of putting it. How do you look at that?
Yeah, it's and obviously Dabo is one of the most respected college coaches over the past decade, essentially. Yeah, to me, I remember when he won that national championship, there were a lot of jokes that, the jokes that he was crying after the game, and he was crying because he knew he was going to Cleveland. I think a lot of people thought he was going to Cleveland, and then kind of late in the draft process, Miles became one of these. Miles was always going to be, top 3 pick probably, but I just remember I always thought Deshaun was going to Cleveland, and he wasn't. And again, we're happy with Miles being on the team, but he is very talented, and it is the most important position in team sports, period. And I think the Browns, again, off the field stuff aside, purely from a talent perspective, clearly missed. And I think if they could do it again, they would definitely draft Deshaun first overall. And I can't say it enough. It doesn't take away from Miles. He would probably agree that the most important position is quarterback, because he touches the ball nearly every play, unless there's like a direct snap or something on offense. And the NFL has changed in such a way where the quarterback, they're passing more than ever. The quarterback is protected more than ever, so that actually kind of hurts Miles in his role. It is the most important position in team sports, period. So yeah, I think the Browns really missed on that, and we're going to talk about the other, top 3 quarterbacks taken. So number 2 overall was Mitch Trubisky, also kind of a local guy, played at Mentor, and then went on to play at UNC. Nick, what do you think about Mitch? He's kind of had an up and down career, but what do you think?
Well, I wouldn't have known much about the name at the time, but he was selected number 2 by the Chicago Bears, and a team that hasn't really had much success, of course, nor have the Browns when it comes to regular season or playoffs. But a way I look at it, in Deshaun's last full season, 2020, he led the league in passing with 4,823 yards. And I believe Trubisky was on the Steelers last season. I don't know if that's still true. No, they have Kenny Pickett now, but he did play a little bit for Pittsburgh last season. And it's just very interesting how the draft unfolded, because I kind of make a joke about this. The Browns must have been friends with the Texans long before 2022, because they traded the 12th pick to Houston, and in return, Cleveland got the 25th pick and a first-round pick for the following draft. And Cleveland selected safety Jabril Peppers, who I believe
Was with the Giants.
down the road went to the Giants when we got Odell Beckham Jr. I just recall that when John Dorsey was here. So in the beginning of Baker's era.
And for whatever reason, again, this is no fault of Jabril. He's talented. I think he's had some success with New York. For whatever reason, the Browns would play him 30 yards off the ball sometimes, and it seemed like he could never actually make an impact play. So he, that trade was clearly, I don't say worthless, because he was used as a future trade chip for Odell, who effectively, from a performance standpoint with Cleveland, was pretty much worthless. So But yeah, trading away that 12th pick to Houston, the Browns also had an opportunity, as did many other teams, to draft Pat Mahomes, who went overall, as we all know, to Kansas City. So clearly, he's better than Deshaun too, but clearly a generational talent, by far and away the best quarterback in football right now. Maybe one day he'll be the best ever. Just it goes to show that it is a tough job to be a GM and to be part of the front office and make these decisions. Obviously, no one knows the future exactly. So you can't be too critical, but how, the Browns passed on Deshaun at quarterback and how they passed, as with many teams, pass on Patrick Mahomes is beyond me. What do you say, Nick?
Yeah, it's just baffling. I didn't look at all the teams on the list. I mostly covered the top 3 quarterbacks who were taken, and that was Mitch Trubisky, Pat Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson, going in order of 2, 10, and 12 overall. So yeah, I mean, you can only guess at this point, not only in the past how it could have affected the Browns, but many fans, the way they word it now, are the Browns for their first full season with Deshaun getting 2020 Deshaun or the last 6 games Deshaun. So, who knows? We're going to find out in September. But we're going to turn it over to the Cleveland Guardians. Not much to say about them right now. They are 2 games below 500 at 47 and 49. 2 games behind the Minnesota Twins, and they have a ball game tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies. And Gavin Williams will be the starter, who has made 5 starts, gone 1-2, and his ERA is below 4. I like Gavin Williams, a young rookie. There's been some question marks about Shane Bieber and even Aaron Savali. Do we think Cleveland could trade away one of them? I don't think that'll happen at this point based on the injuries our starting rotation has had. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't see them. I could see Savali being traded a little bit, but I just don't know what they'd get for them or for him. Obviously they'd get a lot for Shane Bieber, even though he struggled a little bit this year, but I don't see them moving on from him. That would be so unpopular with the fans. They need pitching, so yes, maybe one of them goes, but I just can't see them trading away Shane Bieber. I mean, even if they got multiple home run hitters and more, that wouldn't cut it. So, yeah, I can't see them doing that. I could see them moving on from Savali potentially. But yeah, we'll keep you posted. We'll try and have these podcasts more often. Sorry about the delay between episodes, but thank you again for listening. You have been listening to the Cleveland Sports Pros podcast.